Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2, Breaking Brad. I am Ol'Ed, and I'm joined by Andre C. Andre, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing awesome. Great last week, and now finally get to talk some Loki with you. I have so many questions coming out of this episode. Like, where did this thing start from? How this thing's ending? Where's Miss Minute, as I've written in my name? What happened to the multiverse? It's just a holy moly of it all.
Yeah, they did a lot in a short amount of time this week. They go ahead and start with the recap, and then we open up at the Zaniac premiere. Zaniac, for those that don't know, and I didn't know and had to do some research.
Yeah, me too.
Zaniac is an actual in Marvel canon movie based on a character, Brad Wolfe, who gets possessed by demons and becomes a serial killer who kidnaps women and kills them.
And then they did bring him, the actual character, into the comics at one point too.
That was all from the comics. This is the comic origin for the role of Brad Wolfe.
Yeah, and I love how it's a movie in this. It's not.
Yeah, it's a legitimate Marvel in canon movie. It's a canon movie that was created in the comic books. That's never actually existed in real life.
I love it. I loved it. I was like, where are we? This is cool. I thought we were getting the Victor Timely stuff here because
Yep.
the way they look, the time era. I was thinking, oh, it's Victor Timely, but no, it was Brad.
It was indeed Brad. By the way, isn't he? Of course, he's a Brad too. Like, of course, he's a Brad. Like, this dude's a dickhead, so of course his name is Brad.
Yeah.
If you were named Brad, I
Uh,
apologize, but
Brad, fucking
we
Brad.
we've all known a Brad who's just a dick.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%, 100%.
So he's going ahead and he's living his best life on the timeline. He's going ahead and answering questions at this movie premiere, and he meets Mobius and he meets Loki, and we have this great shot from them standing there as they're talking, and Brad is visibly worried. He's visibly like, "Oh, I gotta get out of here. This isn't good. They shouldn't be here." And by the way, Loki, what's with like the puffy lapel here, man? Like, what the hell's going on here? Is this a seven? Like, I'm not a child of the '70s. Is this like a '70s thing that I
Dude,
just don't know?
I was born in '87. How the heck would I know?
I don't know. I was just hoping you might know.
All I could
Hopefully
think when
somebody in
he's
the
wearing
comments
that,
will tell us.
all I could think him wearing that shirt was Seinfeld, the puffy, the puffy shirt. That's all I could think of when seeing him in that shirt, the puffy shirt from Seinfeld.
Yeah. But this is a fun little scene where he starts going on the run now, and he's trying to get away from them, and they're constantly catching him. I love the best part is he starts running away, and Mobius is like, "It's okay, we can drink. We're on the job. It's fine. It's part of the job. We're gonna go ahead and take a drink." And Loki's like, "He's running, isn't he?" And Mobius is like, "Shit, he's running." They start going after him, and then this weird, fakey American accent comes out, and it's B-15. And I was like, what the hell? Who was that? Because it didn't sound like her at all.
No.
The fake Valley Girl, Californian-y kind of accent that she gave. But she goes ahead and tries to get a hold of him. She gets his temp pad, which we'll talk about later.
Hmm.
And Brad keeps running, and he goes ahead and eventually he gets run down by Loki. But not just Loki. Multiple Lokis and Shadow Lokis.
Okay, well, before we get to the shadow, I just love how he manifested street toughs to mess with Brad.
Well, so some of them, if you look in the back of one of the earlier shots as he's running away, you see a couple of these people. And then Loki just produces a whole bunch more.
I loved it though. I loved that.
I did too.
Because again, and it shows like it gave you that feeling of like this guy's walking the streets at night alone. Something can happen to you. Is that feeling? And then it's all Loki. And then the shadows were amazing.
Yeah. So we do get to the Shadow Guards, which is the coolest, weirdest thing that I've ever seen. I've never seen Loki use his shadows as. I feel like we saw something like this in Thor, but I don't think we physically saw this in Thor, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't bring it up in my head. No, but dude, it was awesome. Like just to see,
It was great.
and like the three shadows appear, and then his goes away, and two of them like grow the horns.
Bigger. Yeah,
they grow bigger, grab the horns.
Oh,
so cool.
It was very cool. After that, in between all this, Mobius shows up and he starts talking to one of the Loki variants. Isn't this a bit overkill? And then the camera just like shifts completely to the right, and Loki goes, "I don't know. I thought it was spot on." And we get that scene from the trailer, that spot on from the trailer scene, and it's. I love seeing the scenes from the trailer in places that I didn't expect them, which is the scene right here.
And I love him assuming that Loki's going to be in the center, but Loki's smart enough not to be the center when he's moved off to the right. I just love those little things.
Yeah, this was a fun little scene. Nothing drastic happened here, but nothing really happens.
But again, I also started this whole scene happening, going, why is X5 at a movie premiere? Why
Yeah.
are they now chasing X5? Nothing. Like, it started out with questions. And I went, I thought they were going hunting for Sylvie at the end of the episode. I was so confused.
And it's funny, they had to add a scene, and Eric Voss of New Rockstars goes ahead and says that he thinks it was added in post because it's just a verbal scene over a pulled out shot of Mobius and Loki, where it's just Mobius talking, and he basically gives us this little line of exposition where
Yeah.
it's, this is the last place his temp pad was seen. We know we're chasing after Sylvie, so this is our best chance to figure out where they've been and what's going on. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that gives me some idea. But it feels like there was a scene missing before this where
It
they
really
decided
does.
to chase after them or find them or something.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason why we're doing this is I think it's going to feel herky jerky, and I think we're going to get this all season because this entire episode felt very herky jerky. Is that it's going to be somewhat out of order. And at some point, a lot of these scenes are going to get put in order. At some point,
Makes
I'm
sense.
hoping. I'm hoping because I can forgive it if it's time travel, timey-wimey stuff. To take a line from Doctor Who, if it's timey-wimey and they jump back and forth and they give us another look at this from a previous time, maybe it'll make a little bit more sense.
Like I said, like I said about episode 1, when he encountered Sylvie, I'm like, we're getting that scene again from Sylvie's perspective. We have to. Because there's made no sense that she was there in that moment, right? So like I said, I said on the last episode, I think it's Loki pruning Loki. And we're going to see a lot of these things from another perspective, I think, come in the last couple episodes of the season.
We get the three of them catching up quickly after putting X5 into a different type of holding room, an older feeling holding room. By the way, does this TVA feel like an entirely different TVA than the TVA we saw last season?
Yeah, I'm like, are we at different point in time? What are we? I don't know. That's where I'm confused. But again, Mobius obviously knows Loki, so that this Mobius, this X13 or B13, sorry, they all know him out of the time they are. So did time get displaced in this? Did all of them get displaced into it? I don't know. It looks different. It's brighter.
Yeah,
it's like the original TVA always seemed dark to me, except for the big atrium area. And even the big atrium area, right, like with the statues and everything, while bright, had its darkness to it. Like had in the hallway, where this feels so bright. Even the holding room seems so bright in the color, in that like light reddish tone. I don't know. It felt odd.
Yeah. So he's in a different type of holding cell. We get a catch up with OB as he's working on a way to try to stabilize the time loom, and they bring up Brad's obviously modified, big fat. It almost looked like a cell phone from the 90s. Like it almost looked like a brick phone at this point. Like there's something attached to time.
And he was hiding in the 70s, though. So how would he explain having the fucking temp pad? That's my question. If he was hiding in the 70s,
that's it. That's probably why he was a variant and why they found him. No, I'm just kidding.
no, but
no.
I want to know if he pulled that temp pad out and somebody walked up and they would be like, "What the fuck is that?" In the 70s, like you would have to, yeah.
OB says, "Yeah, of course I can help you out with the temp pad, but does this temp pad and what's inside of it?" Does that trump the fact that, the timeline's about to explode? They're like, no. Keep doing what you're doing. We'll figure it out.
And he gives them a manual.
And he goes ahead and hands them the manual and the temp pad. Oh, I love
it's the fact that Obi has created everything for the TVA is kind of amazing.
Yeah. Question. I've seen this brought up on Heavy Spoilers, and again, if you don't follow Heavy Spoilers, one of my favorites from New Rockstars has gone to Heavy Spoilers, and he does all the theory reviews. So if you don't want to miss MT and all the wonderful thing that MT brings, definitely go check out Heavy Spoilers on YouTube. They are great. Paul does a really great job with his breakdowns too, a little bit quicker than Eric. He doesn't go as into the weeds as Eric sometimes does. But he's brought up the idea that OB is another version of Kang. MT has brought up the idea, what if OB is the Mr. Gryphon variant
That
of
would
Kang?
make so much goddamn sense.
Because
But
remember,
again,
OB, Mr. Gryphon is the businessman. He's the one, if you remember in season 1, the Avengers Tower that was in the Prune timeline era in the Wasteland, the Void. That Avengers Tower there did not say A for Avengers. It said Kang, Kang, and that was the Kang Towers. When Mr. Gryphon buys the towers from Tony Stark, it becomes the Kang Towers.
And again, like everybody here is a variant pulled from their reality and had their mind wiped. So yes, Obi remembers the last 400 years because that's how long he's been, or roughly 400 years that he's been in the TVA. But and so is he? Yeah, is he Mr. Is he Typhon? Is he one of them pulled and having his mind erased, but then put into that area where he remembers the last 400 years?
Yeah. Was his mind wiped of just his variant life and everything that he's done since being part of the TVA, something that he remembers? Now,
but again, if you know, like we said, these people have had their minds wiped multiple times because of the crack thing. Like that crack thing makes me really sus on the mind wiping.
Yeah. The only thing that would potentially give me pause as to that he's a version of a Kang variant would be the fact that if he was a Kang variant, he would have been able to get into the system today. Because ideally, He Who Remains, we're not going to get He Who Remains. We're going to get Victor Timely. And Victor Timely is going to be able to fix.
Yeah, but again, this is maybe he doesn't know, so he doesn't know to put his stuff his thing in.
Maybe.
Again, he's being told because he needs a DNA sequence or whatever the heck it is, right?
Time aura is what
time aura. But again, as a variant who has had his mind wiped, if this is true, he doesn't know to use his time aura to do it. So that again, that would explain things. Yep. In that point, is if he is the variant, he doesn't know. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. We continue on. They go ahead and start. The gang goes ahead and clusters. We have 2 different scenes. One with B-15 and Casey, where they talk about trying to find Ravonna Renslayer. And Casey thinks that it's a secret mission. I just think Casey wants to be part of one of these secret missions, and that's why he thought it was a secret, which is great. I love Casey. By the way, I'm going to be adding Casey to the background here now that I noticed he's going to be a more integral part of this series. He's going to get added to the background.
What about B-13?
Maybe B-15 gets added too.
Or B-15, sorry. She has to be added too.
Maybe, we'll see. She's less important to me. Casey's better. Anyway.
She's a pretty darn important part of this season so far.
She's basically there to ask the questions that the audience wants to know.
And that's important.
She's just the best. Anyways, they start and she goes on and on about all the things that Renslayer did in the first season. She's like, she killed Hunter C-20. She tried to kill Mobius. She put me in time jail. She ran off and tried to take over the TVA. No, this isn't a secret. Everybody knows we're chasing her. He's like, oh, I'm sad. But no, we haven't found her yet. But he finds out that the last message that she had was from Miss Minutes, which leads B-15 to know that they need to go talk to Mobius and Loki. Meanwhile, in this moment, Mobius and Loki are trying to play tech support, and this is every guy who doesn't want to read the instructions on how to build something, trying to figure out how something works. Am I wrong?
It's so true.
It's such a guy thing, too. Like, it's not... it's such a guy thing here where Mobius is looking through the book and he's like, yeah, you got to do this and this. And Loki's like, it's not working, dude. Like, it just doesn't work like that.
Like it feels like Mobius is like, again, this is, I'm just trying. He's the wife reading the instructions to the husband, who the husband won't fucking listen. I love it.
Yeah, it was great. At this point, they go ahead, they talk about Renslayer and Miss Minutes working together. Loki brings up the line from Kang, which I'm going to play again because I thought it was great. So we're going to go ahead and play that again.
You are quite a marvel. I will be proud to lead with you. You made a difference in this war. Thank you for being on my team.
And this is something that Loki hadn't told everybody else about. That
Not yet.
Was part of this.
Yeah.
So they were a little confused, but they all were intrigued. And I love how they Disneyfied B-15 in this one scene. Because she's like, man, she's really... And she stops, and she's full of surprises. And I'm like, oh, look, they Disneyfied B-15. Because if this were most shows, she would have swore right there. But because it's Disney Plus, they'd get her not to.
Yeah. And again, like as I've read since last season and more stuff, Ravonna the Remslayer, she's in the comics the love of Kang. So again, I'm interested to see where her story goes, man. I really am. And
I think next week is the story of Miss Minutes and Renslayer. I think we get next week's episode. I think is going to be Victor Timely, Renslayer, Miss Minutes, all of that. I think is going to be part of next week's episode.
I hope so, because man, I'm getting antsy because like Miss Minutes is such a fun character, but I'm a big fan of the voice actress Tara Strong, and I want to hear her do the voice again. I want to see Victor Timely so badly. Like, I'm so I am like last season I wasn't all in. Last season I wasn't all in on the show. Certain episodes were great. So this season so far, it has me like hooked. This is so good.
Casey sees the temp pad and realizes that he can figure out what's wrong with it. However, for some reason, they take the temp pad away from him.
Yeah.
How is he going to figure out what's going on with the temp pad if they don't leave him with the temp pad?
Yeah, that was my question. I was like, why the fuck did you take it from him when he's about to go figure it out?
But they go talk to Brad, and Brad tries to get to Loki, thinking that the easiest thing to do, the easiest person to anger, is to piss off Loki. And I love his monologue here. He is so good here, talking about how Loki does nothing but screw up, how Loki's nothing but a loser, how everything that Loki tries to do just brings harm to everybody around him. He brought harm to Sylvie. He's bringing harm to Mobius and B-15. He's brought harm to his mother. Everything he does, all he does is hurt the people around him.
Well, technically, he's part of the reason his dad died. Like Odin, because like he shoved Odin in the home, and then when they find him, he dies. So like he's technically the reason Ragnarok got unleashed, or like and got their home destroyed. So again, I completely agree with Brad. Loki is just destroys everything.
Yeah. He goes ahead and says, Loki, you're not a hero. You're just a villain. And when you think Loki's about to get upset, he leans into it. And he leans into Brad. And there's this great scene where you just have Loki just standing over Brad. And he's like, yes, I am a villain. And I always try to get what I want. So where is Sylvie? And Brad's just like, no, you're obsessed with this chick. You need help.
I loved it. It felt like we got like Avengers Loki right in that spot. And again, this Loki is only just a little bit removed from Avengers Loki. Remember that. And just the fact that he tapped into that monologue from Avengers Loki was perfection.
Yeah. The three of them here are so good, and B-15's there as well. But Loki, Brad, and Mobius in this scene are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point, Brad realizes he's not going to get to Loki. Loki's going to be too good for him. He's outmatched. So he starts going at Mobius. And he gets Mobius so angry and upset that Mobius goes ahead and hits him, which was fantastic. And nothing else really happens. They get Mobius out of there. They try to figure out what's going on. And Mobius leads Loki in his rage to the automat or the lunchroom of the TV.
Oh no, the pie room. Because every single thing said pie.
Yes. And you get one token for one pie per day.
Yeah.
It is the ugliest key lime pie in the world. I didn't even know key lime pie is supposed to be green. Is it supposed to be green?
I've seen some green, but not that green. But I would eat it. It looked delicious.
I would not eat.
Okay.
But Mobius, clearly upset, storms through the halls, claiming that Brad got to Loki, when obviously he got to Mobius. And then Mobius gets them there, and he looks at Loki and he's like, "Why are we here? Where are we?" And he's like, "I don't know. You were the one who was leading the way, Mobius." And he's like, "Oh, well,
I was following you."
Yeah, I was following you, which is great.
He was behind you the entire time, dude. Come on.
But they sit down and they eat their key lime pie, and Loki talks about Avengers 1 and how he tried to throw Tony Stark off a roof after using an alien army to try to make his father see him. We get the whole truth behind why Loki did the Avengers, and it was because he was angry at Thor and his father and wanted them to notice him.
Yep.
But while talking about Mobius and his life on the sacred timeline and about being kidnapped, Mobius says this.
Not really. Why? Because it's not my life. But it could have been. It isn't. This is. I'd like to thank the guy who kidnapped me and brought me here. Got me this pie.
He really likes pie. That's what I take from that. He really likes pie.
No, but I love the idea, and this scene continues, and I don't want to use too much because we don't want to get copyright struck. Mm-hmm. But this scene continues where Mobius talks about how it's not how bad his life could have been on the sacred timeline that scares him about knowing what it is and things like that. It's about how good his life could have been. And whether or not he could handle that his life was supposed to be something great that scares him, and why he wants to continue being a TVA agent. Why this is the life he's known. Why this is the life that he's never known anything but this. And that this is why he has to do what he does. It was so great to get an insight onto Mobius and the insight into his character. I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, again, Owen Wilson has just done so well. Because I remember when they originally announced Owen Wilson to be in this show in season 1, I was so skeptical. So I'm like, he's just that guy, making the quippy jokes and shit. And then we've gotten this really deep character that has come out of this, and I look at Owen Wilson in just a completely different light now, and how just good he's been, man. Phenomenal.
Because you remember, the Owen Wilson in Loki was announced, I think, roughly around the same time that we heard Selma Hayek and what's her name? Angelina Jolie were going to be in Eternals. And I'm like, oh no, this is the Marvel mistake. This is where they make the mistake of they get just these massive names to be in these movies that aren't going to do things. And you know what? For everything wrong with Eternals, you want to know the two things that weren't wrong with Eternals? Angelina Jolie and Selma Hayek.
especially Angelina Jolie, her portrayal of the person with a broken mind was actually one of the best parts of that movie.
I agree. I had reservations of Angelina Jolie being part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
Mm-hmm.
but they nailed it for her, and she nailed that role. She was fantastic in Eternals. She was one of the only really good things about that movie.
Mm-mm.
But I thought Owen Wilson was going to be this. I didn't think he could be serious enough
Mm-hmm.
because Owen Wilson's best things, not the only things Owen Wilson ever does, because people forget he's done serious movies before, but they're not the movies that make money. They're not the movies that do anything good. It's Night at the Museum, Royal Tenenbaums, things like that.
Wedding Crashers, the
Wedding
big
Crashers.
movie, yeah.
Those are the movies that Owen Wilson goes big in. Those are the movies that makes Owen Wilson who Owen Wilson is.
Mm-hmm.
But he can do the serious stuff, and he has these great moments in Loki. And him and Tom work so well together.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a connection between these two actors. It reminds me of Loki in Thor. Chris and Tom have another very close relationship, it seems, on screen where they just work together. And Mobius fills that role very, very well for me.
Yeah, he's so good. The chemistry these two would have, it's kind of amazing, man.
And the words written, again, we have to give praise to the writers here because, the writers just came back from their strike, and we're watching the actors strike, and we're going to deal with that in the coming days and weeks about what we're going to do now that the producers have walked away from the table. Hello, Mr. Parrish. Thank you for joining us on this fine morning. Hopefully all is well for Papa Parrish.
Good morning, Daddy Parrish.
What would you do if you were Mobius and you knew you had a life that you don't remember, that you've never remember living? Would you want to go back and live that life?
Honestly, I think I'm in the same boat as he currently is. I don't think I'd want it. If I have a life that's the only life I've known, why would I want to know if something was better or worse than what I have?
Yeah.
If it is better, then all I'm doing is longing for that better then. Where the life I currently have, yeah, we all dream of a life of winning the lottery and doing other things, but it's the life we currently live that we want to improve on the life we have. I don't want to know that there's another me out there that's a movie star. I don't want to know that. I want to know that I'm the one, and the life choices I make to improve myself can be better. So I understand where Mobius comes from in this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think selfishly I'm a little more Brad than I am Mobius. I think I would have gone ahead and lived my life on the timeline. I would have gone at least to look. Because if it's better, then I can continue being my rock star life like Brad Wolf was and just living my life. And if it's worse, I can just go back to the TVA.
It's true.
At the end of the day, either way, I can just go back to the TVA. Yes, one of them is going to be a lot harder to leave.
Yeah, and I get it because it's not like Mobius has and again, you never know what Brad's position was as a hunter. Did he really want to keep pruning people and things like that? Those are things that go through your head. Mm-hmm. Where Owen Wilson's character is more like an investigator, things like that. It's how do you feel about the life you currently live too? Those are the other questions. Yeah, I would love to change things in my life, and I say right now, I'm happy with my life. But if I was presented with the opportunity to be a movie star I don't know. I really honestly don't know. But I like to say I love the life I live. You know what I mean? It's always, you never know.
So when we move on, we get Mobius and Loki finishing this conversation talking about how Brad was a good hunter. He's not an idiot. He looks like it, he seems like it, but he's not an idiot. He would have probably found Sylvie. So why didn't he bring her in? What happened? Why did he decide to do what he did? But before we can find out what the resolution of this conversation is, we get OB trying to install the time loom fix that he's created to fix the timeline. However, he finds out that he needs the time aura of the one who's created it. They need the time aura of He Who Remains, or a variant of He Who Remains.
Mm-hmm.
But before we can get too invested into this, we're back in Brad's cell, and Mobius and Loki have a plan. They put Brad in the box, man.
I love it. I love it.
They put Brad in the box. Andre, go ahead and talk about Loki here and his villainous.
So deliciously evil to put him in the box. Then every time Brad keeps fucking with him, shrinking it more and more, and just getting like, and it's like, as much as I say, this is not the Loki that had the hero turn. This is the Loki that, yes, he's had done some good deeds with the TVA for the last little bit, but it's still that Loki from Avengers that is willing to kill, willing to toss Tony Stark off a building. This is the man that, wow, we look at him all as a hero now. This guy is just recently, like this version has just recently turned from villain, and he has no compulsion on willing to crush Brad. It is so great, and just the fear of coming out of Brad in this, as the box keeps getting smaller and smaller, was absolutely tremendous.
There was also a nice switch. We talked the other day when we were talking about episode 1 about we went back to WandaVision, and we had the switch from a character who goes from one emotion to another in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great moment as Loki's getting this machine going after he's locked Mobius out, where Brad doesn't think he knows what he's doing. And Brad's like, yeah, you're all talk, Loki. Nothing's going to happen here. I'm safe. And Loki gets the machine going, and he has the controller that Brad doesn't think he has. And all of a sudden, Brad's like, Loki, I said some things earlier, and I want to apologize. And Loki's like, no, you were right. I'm a villain. And he just scares the shit out of Brad. And it was so much fun.
Yeah, again, such perfection, man. It was just clean and evil, but like just being able to mess with this guy in such a way, and like just to turn for Brad from the cocky asshole that he was into the scared little boy was so good.
Yeah, just absolutely fantastic. After leaving this, we get the information that we want, that he's willing to help Mobius and he's willing to help Loki. We then get OB and Casey and B-15. Well, really, we get B-15 and Casey walking into Cerebro. I mean, walking into the time loom room. Did you see that on Twitter this week?
Oh, I saw it, and that made me happy.
Yeah, for those that missed it, when you see the doors open to this room, the door has an eerie similarity to the Cerebro doors that we've seen in all the X-Men movies. But we have them there, and OB is off screen, but you can hear him kind of yelling. And B-15 and Casey are waiting to talk to him. And then we get this scene, and this is why OB is the absolute best.
We're all gonna die. Oh, hey, nice to meet you. We're all gonna die.
What do you mean?
The blast doors won't open.
Did you try the C12 bypass pathway?
That won't work.
Are you sure?
Of course. I wrote it.
That's just so great. OB is so great. And then Casey starts fangirling over meeting Ouroboros, the one and only Ouroboros.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you've read he's like, you've read the book? He's like, not only have I read it, I've memorized it.
I've memorized most of it, he said. He said most of it.
I memorized most of it. Would you sign it here next to your picture? Oh, this was so great. Like,
Oh,
it's a nothing scene. Like, this whole scene is for Ouroboros to be able to yell, "Oh, we're gonna die," and have the gang figure out about it. Because
well,
now,
and it's to get the exposition out there that yes, we need to time more of this person, but that's
yeah,
what it's like to get it to all the other characters. That's all it's about. And but it's just this fun little scene. Casey's just awesome in here.
yeah, the Ouroboros and Casey are fantastic in this. We
Mm-hmm.
then get Brad leading them to McDonald's, which is just, it brought back so much of my childhood seeing this type of McDonald's, because most McDonald's have been rebuilt into the newer, brighter, better looking McDonald's. But this is the McDonald's of my youth. Like, I know this is 82 and it's a little before my time, but these McDonald's didn't change very much back in the 80s. You didn't do a lot of revamp and revitalization of these places. So these yellow swinging chairs and these colorful walls and these fake plants, that was all I knew growing up about being able to have the choice to go to McDonald's for dinner as a kid. And it was fantastic. And we get this lovely scene of Loki kind of walking up to Sylvie as she's at McDonald's. And it's like, "Loki, what would you like to order?" It's just, look at the two of them. Loki's like longing for love, and she's like, "Get the fuck out of my face."
She's like, he's longing for love, and she's like, you broke my heart. Fuck you.
I mean, I don't necessarily know that he broke her heart, because of the fact she's the one who kicked him out.
Yeah, but she turned. He was like debating keeping he remains alive, and I think that broke her heart.
I do. I agree. And I can't wait for them to have that conversation, because they don't have that here.
No.
They start to have it. They go out to the truck and they have a little conversation, trying to figure out what's going on between the two of them. Inside, you've got Mobius, and he's sitting there and he's eating his apple pie and drinking his milkshake, and all Brad Wolf wants to do is get the hell out of there. X5 wants to be nowhere near this. And this is where I'm going to bring up something that we didn't talk about earlier, and I wanted to wait to bring it up here. Broxton, Oklahoma, where Sylvie's living, is a branched timeline. Mm-hmm. It's not part of the sacred timeline. However, when the episode first starts and we go back to the Zaniac premiere, that is mentioned in there when they show us the date and the time. They now also have, for any place that's outside of the TVA, they are telling us whether it is a branched timeline or part of the sacred timeline. Yeah. Brad Wolf is part of the sacred timeline. It is something that is necessary to happen. That Zaniac is part of the way to make sure that this happens. Brad wants to be out of these branched timelines for a good reason. Because we find out at the end of this that it's kind of a trap. It's not really a trap. Like, they're not setting up Mobius and they're not setting up Loki like you would think the trap is. But the trap is to destroy every branched timeline to go ahead and fix Sylvie, what Sylvie broke, essentially. That's what Dox wants to do. She wants to kill Sylvie by killing every branched timeline, because Sylvie's not part of the sacred timeline. Mm-hmm. And I thought this was really, really interesting. And then we get the scene where we've seen it in the commercials, where they're in that big hangar and there are time doors opening all over the place and there are time agents everywhere. And they're just walking through places, dropping time bombs, essentially. They're the reset charges.
Oh, they're Hiromu Takahashi. Oh my god. Wrestling reference. Sorry.
They are definitely a ticking time bomb. There is no Daryl to be seen. I don't even know if Daryl's still the doll that he has.
No. He Bad Luck Fale decapitated that a long time ago.
Oh, poor Daryl. Anyways, Dox is sitting here sending people to every branched timeline. And to give you a visual representation, earlier in the episode, this was the picture of the timeline. It's not a good picture. But you can see all the branch timelines from the white timeline in the middle.
Yep.
After Dox is done, after they've kidnapped, after they've gotten Dox under control, and they've stopped them from going to various branch timelines, this is what the timeline looks like afterwards.
Only a couple branches, man.
And by the way, all of these orange pieces are places where the timeline has been pruned and are slowly coming together. These gray areas are areas that are slowly dissolving and evaporating.
And as I look at it, 3 of them are not dissolving.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's almost it's almost heartbreaking, man. Like,
yeah. As B-15 says, they killed millions. Really millions of people were killed.
Trillions, quadrillions. Because the other thing, for every timeline has the same amount of humans on Earth, depending where it is in time. That's 7. If you're looking at our time right now or the future, that's 7+ billion people in each timeline. That's quadrillions, whatever the number you want to put out there, that they're murdering.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting. My question is, does this fix the time loom? If we've killed all these branched timelines, does that mean the time loom is fixed? Or does that mean that there's going to be an even bigger problem with the time loom going?
I think it's going to end up as a bigger problem, in my personal opinion.
We then find out that we know where Renslayer is. And we get one last scene before the episode ends. We get Sylvie outside of her McDonald's, back where she belongs, sitting on top of a truck, potentially her truck. And her boss is sitting here talking to them.
It's like 18-year-old kid.
Yeah. However, there has been another theory brought out there, and I don't remember who it was. It's either Eric Voss at New Rock Stars, or it is either MT or Paul from Heavy Spoilers. One of the 3 of them said this. This little boy right here. He's a young man. He's got an interesting haircut. He likes to be in charge, but he doesn't want to be too, forceful about it. He doesn't talk very loud, and he likes wearing a tie. Is this Mobius?
Fucking Jesus, I never thought of that. Holy moly.
Like, it doesn't have to be. It's probably not. But I love the idea of the question of whether or not this is Mobius. Because think about it. If Mobius was an adult in the 90s, when the jet ski was a big thing, he would have been a young adult in the early 80s.
Makes sense.
It's an idea. It's just an idea. Could that be a young Mobius?
Because again, like we know, B13, like X5, his name in the Sacred Timeline is Brad. Right? So this kid's name probably isn't Mobius, because that name was given to him when he got removed from the timeline. That's the way I look at it. You're muted, buddy.
Yeah, he definitely has a different name, as everybody has, seemingly, have in the Sacred Timeline versus reality. And like I said, this is a branched timeline, so there's no telling what difference, if this is a variant of Mobius. Like, this isn't probably the Mobius that grew into the Mobius that is part of the TVA. This is a branched timeline in Broxton, Oklahoma. I just love the idea that because of this show, and because of how chaotic everything can be in this show, that you can physically ask the question, is this man this man?
I hope so. I kind of hope so now.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be.
Remember, we have to manage our expectations, but I just love the idea.
Just like all through WandaVision, Where the fuck is Mephisto? Where the fuck? And we never got him, and it broke my heart. But
We never got Mephisto. But Andre, you've got a lot of stuff coming up. Talk to us first about crossover. We're having crossover part 2.
yeah,
Give us a little bit of your thoughts on that.
so we are going to get a historic crossover part 2 in 2024. They haven't announced a date yet, but I am super excited for that show. The first one was absolutely amazing. So I'm actually really looking forward to that. There's lots of great Stardom and New Japan coming up over the next couple months. I know Stardom, we were dropping a show this upcoming week about the October 9th Stardom show with a lot of title defenses there. We've got Royal Quest just happened for New Japan today as we record this. It's happening in an hour and change. That show starts. So we'll be reviewing that this week over on Andre Melball Wrestling Talk. Lots of great wrestling coming up. But a historic crossover, I think, is one of the biggest points coming out. And I'm excited for that because, again, it gives a big stage for Stardom that they haven't had since the last historic crossover. But again, I was listening to WrestleNomics, and they said Stardom has gone from making, before the pandemic, $1.5 million to $2 million a year in revenue to now making 10 to 12 million in a year in revenue. Throughout the pandemic, they grew. So it's impressive for what this company has done, and it's impressive for what they're going to do.
I mean, now, is that the influx of Bushiroad and Bushiroad money and Bushiroad publicity behind it?
Well, Bushiroad has owned it since a good bit before they bought them in 2017 or 2018. And again, it's just growth. And yes, Bushiroad putting money into this company to let them grow and do bigger things has really helped. So again, I love it. I absolutely love it. I can't wait for it to start crossover too.
Where can the good people find you and Melball this week?
Twitter, Hive, Mastodon, at that kind of guy. Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads, at that Canada dude. YouTube.com/at Andre Melball Wrestling Talk, where you can find all the great content me and Melball are reviewing over there. We review Stardom, New Japan. Not this upcoming week, but this Friday on the 20th, me and Mel are going to Top Talent Pro Wrestling. So we're going to have a Chop Talk coming out of that show for y'all. We're going to talk about that one featuring Pro Wrestling Noah star Timothy Thatcher, ladies and gentlemen. We're a former NXT star.
I was going to say, former NXT star. He's not Pro Wrestling Noah star. He's former NXT star, Timothy.
Well, currently Pro Wrestling Noah star Timothy Thatcher. He will be appearing on the show, and I can't wait to meet him and talk about his match with the undeniably awesome ultraviolet Mitch Clark. So you'll be getting that in about a week and a half's time. Lots of great content coming out over at our channel. And you can also find us on Facebook at Andre Melball Wrestling Talk.
Awesome. You can find me on X at EdFries12584. You can find me on Twitch right here at EdFries2002. That's where my gaming content and the simulcast of all my other content will reside. You can go ahead and give me a follow over there. I am on the road to 100 followers on Twitch. So if you want to go ahead and do that, that would be great. You can find me every Tuesday night right here on our local establishment as I go ahead and talk all things NXT with the lovely Ashton Pizarro. You can find me every Wednesday as I do Wrestle Draft with Papa Parrish. Next week, we are having our WrestleMania extravaganza. It is 3 weeks of booking leading into WrestleMania, and then WrestleMania Season 2 finale will be happening. So that's going to be a whole bunch of fun. It's anybody's game. I am about 10,000 behind that bastard Eric Bischoff, and I think we're about 20,000 ahead of Parrish. It's all to play for. Everybody's right in that same wheelhouse. And then me and Andre will be back at some point next week, potentially with a pre-recorded episode, as work schedules and life always seem to get in the way every now and then. But we will be talking episode 3 of Loki. We will continue with the Loki episodes for the foreseeable future. We may have a Marvels episode dependent on where the actors strike is at the time. As of this live recording, the actors are still trying to get a deal and the producers have walked away. Andre and I are keeping an eye on it. Should this continue to go in the wrong direction, we will talk about whether or not it is a good idea to continue doing Marvel talks. because we restarted Marvel Talk with the idea that a deal would likely be in place in the foreseeable future. But with the producers walking away, that's definitely come to light that it might not be as foreseeable as we thought it would. So we will keep you up to date. We will finish the Loki series regardless, and then we will keep you up to date with what goes on after that. But we will be here sometime next week. We will let you know on the Twitter when we know. But for my tag team partner, Andre C., for myself, Ol'Ed Ed Fries, I'll join you next time. Goodbye.